There's an NWA to go with it. You would not.
We're good to go.
We're ready. All right, welcome to the February 16th North Logan City Council meeting. We are all present. We'll begin with the opening ceremony. I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're ready. After which Emily will give us the prayer. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank thee for this time that we have set aside as a city to come together and to discuss issues. We thank thee for the moisture that we have received, and we ask a blessing on Cache Valley to receive the moisture that we need for this upcoming summer. Please bless those who are sick or afflicted with COVID, that they can recover quickly. And we thank thee for all the wonderful blessings we have. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Emily. All right, we will begin. I would entertain a motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
Roger moves.
Second.
Second by Buzzy. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And to approve the December 8th City Council meeting minutes.
So moved.
All right, Buzzy moves.
Second.
Emily seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And let's see, Alan, follow up on issues from our previous meetings.
No follow-up.
Okay, yeah, let's move to action items then.
Okay, I'll jump through them really quick. So I'll talk to the microphone. Civic Center design projects, we'll talk about that a little bit later tonight. We've gone through a process of interviewing and looking at contractors to help with the actual construction of the building. And they started preliminary designs on the, at least the programming aspect of the community center and library remodel. Compensation committee, we need to set up our next meeting. The interns have been doing some work in that regard. So I'll have to give us a few of the council members after this meeting. We'll set up a time to meet in the coming weeks. Along with the communication committee, they've been making posts. We talked about that today. And the website has several updates to it. If you go to the existing website, they started making updates to that, and we'll continue to make updates regarding the calendar aspect on that website. Water, the mayor's been working extremely hard, working on one of our water funding options. We're working with the state legislature on that. Things are looking good for now. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks. And we're looking at that. We're still completing some of the design work for what we can do over this year as far as installation goes. Sewer, we're working with Logan on our major trunk line project right now, kind of near BTEC and heading south from there. Our major trunk line flows through there. And so that's a massive project that's taking place in collaboration with Logan. And then they'll move to another segment of it at 18th North and 6th East near the railroad tracks there. And they've been working on that for a few years. And so it'll be good to see if we can get those things wrapped up. Streets, they're really going out right now and they're getting everything lined up for the summer. So everything from striping goods to surface treatments, to slurry seals, to crack sealing, everything else that they're working on getting lined up for this year. And obviously plowing is still at the forefront of their minds. Stormwater, they're transitioning to a new software right now that'll help with some of the tracking that they're working on. Engineering, they're really doing a lot with the geotech study here on this site. We're looking at designs to potentially kind of partially reroute the canal up here in collaboration with that or in conjunction with that. And then jumping down through parks, they have 3 or 4 different projects they're working on, and they're applying for grants and RAPS funding. One for the north end of Elkridge is one of the options that they're looking at. That's kind of ahead of schedule that we're looking to do that. And then the area At Meadowview Park, or the Cash Recreation Complex, around the new pickleball courts, adding a pavilion, restroom, and a parking lot in that surrounding area. So they're working very hard on those two areas right now. Trails, on Shoreline Trail, we went over several things today, and they'll probably purchase some equipment for this summer to help maintain the trails. There's two small segments of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail that we'll probably be working on in the next couple months to get those installed. Recreation has been extremely busy. We'll go over a few things tonight concerning recreation and all the fantastic things that they've been doing the past few months. Facilities, they have been working on setting up their budget for next year, but things in the library, things at the for RSL building, and they've been very busy in that regard. Cemetery, they're talking about different options for secondary water. That's one of the main concerns right now, and doing some master planning in that regard. Community development, they'll be working on two things this week. They're both public hearings, but one is updating code related to just general items within the city and how we request plans. It still references, I think, like 3.5-inch floppy disks within our codes. We're cleaning up a few items that probably should have been cleaned up years ago. And we'll talk about a few of those items tonight. And I think the post subdivision process, or we formally call like the legal lot subdivision process. They'll update a few items on that tomorrow night. Economic development, they're fine tuning a few different master plans regarding certain areas throughout the city. The economic development master plan just needs fine tuning before it comes before the city council for approval. The treasurer, they've been working on new utility and billing template, and also with the Postal Express to see different methods in communication, how we can get in touch with areas that are PUDs or apartment complexes or other things where they have one utility account, but we need to be in touch with everyone that lives in those areas. And so we're trying to look into different options for that. Just jumping down through here, we'll get to the Employee Appreciation Month, but they've been working on onboarding, hiring options, recruiting options. They're working very heavily right now on getting the word out regarding different jobs available through all the different departments, especially trying to recruit now for summer help as well. We'll go over a few items relating to the budget tonight. Scott's made several updates to the budget. Then library, they've talked about all the increased programming they're putting together. If you look at the newsletter, you can go through each of those items that they have put together for the coming months. And please, we're working with them on the nuisance properties and then also the budgetary items that are coming up in the next few months, going through each of those. And then fire department, we'll talk a little bit more tonight, their budget proposals tonight. But one of the major things that they're looking at is that they have their main station, their Station 70 rebuild is what they're going through. But sorry, I glanced through those very quickly. I don't know if there's anything else or any other questions from the council, Mayor.
Any questions? Nope. Thanks, Ellen. All right, we will move on to recognition of an exemplary staff member. Tonight we have 3, Jesse Howe, Connor Aiken, and Lindy Hilton. Jesse, you're representing all 3? Okay. So from Jesse, Connor has been with us for almost a year now and has worked hard to learn the ins and outs of youth sports. He's been very reliable and has stepped up, keeping the programs going while we make the transition to manage the new building. Lindy works hard and does a lot behind the scenes. She manages to get her work done in the short amount of time she has. She always does her best and it shows in her work. Harvey, her child, manages to keep the workplace fun and keeps us on our toes. Jordan wrote this: Jesse, Connor, and Lindy were nominated by numerous members of the public works staff, as well as the office staff. Over the past few months, they've faced new challenges and continued growth. The North Logan Rec Department runs on the smallest budget and lowest staff in the Valley. Despite this, they're operating the largest rec program in the Valley. This crew is dedicated to go the extra mile and strive to succeed. They work countless hours and are always concerned to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to participate and recreate. They face numerous obstacles day in and day out. Recently, they've taken over management of the indoor complex on top of their normal duties to give residents even more opportunities to participate. Without Jesse, Connor, and Lindy, there's no way we would be where we are today. This group deserves all the recognition they can get. We are extremely grateful for their hard work and dedication. And I can add that as a participant in the rec programs, you make it amazing for the kids and for all the participants. So thank you, Jesse. And if you'd pass that along to Lindy and Connor as well, we'd appreciate that. All right, let's give them a hand. All right, well, with that, let's move on to our first action item. Consideration of ratifying appointments to city boards and commissions. We have 2 tonight. The first is a library board appointment of Janine Huppy. I don't think she is here. And do we make a motion on that?
You can do it all at once if you like.
Okay. And then Planning Commission, we've asked Kenneth Reese to serve on the Planning Commission. He will ultimately be replacing Eric Hansen. And if you, just give us a wave. And thanks for being here tonight, Kenneth. All right, so I would accept a motion to approve those appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Looks like, who moved?
That was me, sorry.
Okay, Buzzy moved, Craig seconded. All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? All right.
So just a
those-
question, is his term up?
Yeah,
Oh, is it
it
really?
is.
Wow, that went fast.
He's
I know.
been reminding us that that's coming to a close. So we're
Yeah, good
hoping.
luck.
Seems like it's just barely on.
I know. So we're hoping that there'll be a little bit of overlap in those positions so that Kenneth will get a chance to learn the ropes a little bit. So,
Cool.
all right. Let's see, we'll move on to the next item, report from Logan City regarding the new mechanical wastewater treatment plant that is nearing completion. And Isa, we'll turn the time over to you for that.
Thank you, Ellen, inviting me to speak with your council and mayor tonight, and thank you for the invitation to you also. I've never been in your council meeting, so this is a great opportunity for me. I used to live in North Logan before I moved into Hyde Park. Tonight, I'll talk to you about wastewater treatment, where we are, what we've done so far, and why we're even building. I'm spending a lot of your money. You all know probably that. Next. This is our treatment plant currently. Lagoons, they were built 70 years ago. They work fine, but new wastewater requirement rules basically made them unfunctional. They cannot meet those requirements. Nitrogen and phosphorus, those are the 2. Other chemicals we treat, a lot of them, BOD, TSS, those kind of things, they do well. But when it comes to phosphorus and nitrogen, they don't do very well. Next. So right around 2006, the state of Utah started studying the Color Reservoir, which is the receiving water of the wastewater we discharge, how much phosphorus and how much nitrogen is in there. And the reason why they're looking into that is to prevent eutrophication, algal bloom into the reservoir, which takes nitrogen, competes nitrogen utilization in the night, specifically with fish, and eventually kills fish. Some of the algae is also considered toxic to human beings. So that is the reason why they're particularly interested in algae. And nitrogen and phosphorus, they're both fertilizers. They help algae grow. That's why. So it has to be reduced to a level that algae cannot grow. And that level is very small, 0.05 phosphorus. And an average what we discharge is 0.1. Nitrogen, an average what we discharge is 16.1. Nitrogen 3 roughly is what prevents algae to grow. So because of that, lagoons basically became useless to us. So the state said you must build new treatment plant. That was enacted in 2008. We've negotiated and asked it time for, put plans together and select the best treatment plant that would allow us to reach the required levels. Next. So the standards come from the fact that the reservoir is considered to be warm water fishery species and also for recreation. Those are the two primary ones. And so they establish a TMDL, which is total maximum daily loading, that what you can discharge there to those receiving water, so that there will be no eutrophication and you will not kill fish, and you will not also impair the reservoir ability for recreational ability. So next. So the new limit was to set up a limit for nitrogen and phosphorus based on the TMDL, and that limit for phosphorus, this comes up about 1 milligrams per liter, but it's by annual loading. So in a year, we cannot load more than that, and combine it to those is about 15,000 kilograms. And that turns out to be about 1 milligram per liter of water we discharge. That's the concentration. For nitrogen, as you can see that it differs between winter and spring. So 3.5, 2, and 3 is what it is. Okay, next. Financing, that was the key. Building of new treatment plant. We required about $150 million to build the treatment plant. We borrowed about $100 million from the state of Utah, and we saved about $50 million. As I told you, this came up 2006. So from 2006, we knew that we have to do something. So that bought us about 16 years as of today to plan and prepare. And we saved that much money over those years because we've been increasing rates to be able to meet that requirement at that time. So we thought initially 50 million was enough. Boy, we was wrong. So when we designed it and bid it out, it turned out to be $150 million. And one of them was primarily the nitrogen level was very low. The expectation of that was what killed eventually our ability to use $50 million to build a new treatment plant. So we borrowed that money and we was able to fund the project. That necessitated rate increases. We've probably had, for 5 years, continuous 10% increase over those period of time to be able to fund this and pay. Next. So if you're in Logan, that's what happened from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. That's the increase for Logan. And for North Logan, it is by the 1,000 gallons you discharge to Logan City. So it left, it was about 1.85 per 1,000 gallon, and right now it's 3. So significant increase over the years, 5 years. We also enacted impact fee, $2,483 per home, and that is intended to pay future growth. Next. So stakeholders, in this case, you're one of them, the users, state of Utah, which is responsible of the receiving water, and the United States government, the EPA. Those are the users, and the users of the receiving water as well. Next. So this is a new treatment plant. That's what $150 million bought you. This construction is started 3 years ago. It is complete, 90%. Right now, you can see we have water in them. When this picture was taken, it was clean water just to test it. But right now we have wastewater, these two. And in about a week or two, we will also load the other one, wastewater. Next. We still have, this is the initial introduction of wastewater in one of the reactors. We still use the lagoons, but we're transitioning. What we run right now is about 3 million gallons a day, and our flow is about 12 million gallons a day right now, this time of the year. And our design capacity is about 18 million gallons. So we will have a capacity to grow, but we are also planning to build another reactor 4. With the growth we've seen right now, within 5 years, we will be adding on another reactor. Go back to the other one, Alan, if you can. So there's another reactor that will go right here. Those are two right there. And this will eventually be two. The other one will go right there.
But that would be above the 150 million cost. That would be,
Yes, we're
Okay.
saving money and we will be able to use our cash. So you're already paying for that right now. And the impact fee will also help. Next. So this again, when we introduced it, or this picture was taken about 2 weeks ago. Next. So this is when it was still under construction. Next, Alan. So 90% complete. Landscaping is the most significant part that's not done. And because of the winter, we can't do that. Hopefully, what's going on right now is startup and conditioning. What we did is we got wastewater from Weber County Wastewater Treatment Plant, inoculated into the new treatment plant, and we've put our wastewater in there. So we're building mass. We're training the bugs as well as the treatment plant itself to run it smoothly. And hopefully by early May, we will have a ribbon cutting and we may be able to invite you at that time.
so that's when we can get an actual in-person tour.
Yes,
All right.
that's it. If you have any question, I'm more than happy to answer questions you may have.
With that additional unit, what does, it was at 18.
That
What
will
does
give
that,
us 6 more million gallons. So we have 3 reactors right now. Each one of them is 6 million capacity, 18 million. So if we add, we'll go to 24.
okay.
So with you said that you have an increase from 12 to 8. How many homes or how many homes do you expect that would be able to service?
The increase population wise is that 24 million gallons compared to the roughly 12, 15 million gallons, probably a 20% growth.
Is there any forecast on when we might hit that? 50 years, 100 years for the valley?
For the 20% growth.
Yeah.
This is 7 cities. So some cities grow faster than others. Logan is probably the least one, but Logan is also growing high. And North Logan is probably like, but Smithfield, Nibley, those cities are going crazy. So we'll see what happens when we can update you. But we're planning 20 years.
Okay. Thank you, Isa. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
I've never spent 150 million, but
Oh,
feels
it's gonna
good.
be easy.
Sounds like it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I would just add, through the process of construction, I've been down there several times for my full-time job. It's a remarkable system. You've done very well and we had to do it. We had to get it done for that discharge rate, and you've done a good job. We appreciate it.
All right. We will move on to our 4th item. Consider modifying the North Logan City Code Title 12 Land Use 12D-115 Development Regulations, modifying the requirements for water conservation plan requirements for new subdivisions. This item will also include an associated proposed resolution to the North Logan Master Fee Schedule as it relates to tiered water rates specific to areas of the city without secondary water. Alan, can you run us through this one?
Yeah, this particular item, Spencer's very well versed in this item, but unfortunately he's not feeling well tonight, so I'll have to kind of take a crack at it. This has spent several months at the Planning Commission. They've gone over this several times, going over all of the different elements of water conservation. What it's trying to do, and the overarching intent, is looking at areas right now that would like to develop. That one, there's a small caveat, areas where they have secondary water or have had secondary water historically. I think it was a provision for that and how they go about that. They have to submit that as part of their design, use that secondary water, keep those water rights on that parcel. The other element, though, is for land that has not had the opportunity to have, or the provision for secondary water rights and usage on that property. So it goes through, and if we have development in those areas, or in those areas that don't have secondary water over the next year and a half, 2 years, what you're looking at is how the city would approach that. What this is kind of a intermediary step where we're not saying no more development, but this is just short of that as far as water is concerned for those areas that do not have secondary water. And so it goes through and it gives different requirements for the actual landscaping on site, which they can enforce, but there's different elements where it becomes very difficult if a property changes hands after a year or two it's owned. And so it goes through that. So you have both the restrictions on landscaping, but then it even goes into the second aspect, which is the tiered water rate. So there's a specific tiered water rate, and it would have to be adopted by resolution to the master fee schedule, which is right here, just for these areas. And what it does, it really treats the property relatively similarly to anyone using below a certain amount, and that is 15,000 gallons. So the average user uses about 5,000 to 6,000 gallons of interior usage, internal usage on their home every month throughout the entire year. And it gives a caveat for basically about 10,000 extra gallons while you're still in just that first tier to water the lawn. And that's basically to water that landscaping, probably more of a xeriscape design with some grass. Then you hit tier 2 and tier 3, which are very high. And the overarching intent is to have it be a very large carrot, more of a stick requirement to stay within that area. But keep in mind, with this that we're proposing right now, and we've had a lengthy discussion about this, we've gone over this in detail. The overarching intent is to really not burden the system right now in a very tight water year. I mean, this past year was probably the tightest water restriction year we've had in conservation measures. And this year, I mean, cross your fingers and looking at the forecast or crystal ball, we're probably planning for a similar year this coming year. Keep in mind that the items that we will install, and we're working on it right now and going out to bid, would be a well, and then at least one reservoir and potentially 2 reservoirs this year. But the installation takes 6 to 7 months minimum for the well itself, and then to equip it with a well house and everything else. So you're looking at, by the time we get the well in and a reservoir and it may be potentially a second reservoir, but any one of those items, you're looking at the fall of this year, which we have no problem with water during the winter, right, for our residents, and we're fine. It's during the months of June, July, August, and maybe the earliest part of September. That is the tough time for us to provide water, and we are literally at the brink of what we can provide during those months. And so looking at what we have, if someone were to come in and develop, this is basically catered towards a new development in those areas. And if they were to come in, get approval, build a home, you're looking at about a year to a year and 3 months right now before they would even have occupancy in the home and potentially have landscaping. Well, that puts us in the spring of 2023, which is when we will have at least our other items online. And so at that point, regardless, we will have to come back in and completely revamp all of these conservation measures to something more reasonable or scale them back considerably, probably more in line and probably similar to what the rest of the tiered rates are at that time. But I just bring that to your attention that in a timeline, in a logical timeline, the hope is we will never have to implement these. Like by the time someone builds, we will have other water items in place, and we will have to scale these back considerably, or change the numbers, change the number of landscaping, square footage of grass, the tiers, scale them back to our 8 or 9 tier level that we have right now. So sorry, that was a lot of information in a few minutes. That's probably 3 or 4 months of planning commission discussion.
I guess I'm not against the idea of not scaling back. The part in it where it talks about the turf limits, the turf grass limits. I guess I don't, what would we, is that what you're mentioning scaling back? Or are you just talking about the water tier rates?
Both. It would be a discussion at that time. Something that's a tiny bit more reasonable or a little bit more reasonable, especially the tiers. That would be the part where we'd say what is more reasonable. But as far as the turf grass and other things, we'd have to look
I
at
guess
that
I
at
don't,
that time.
I don't really see it as unreasonable. I mean, we do live in a desert, and it does not seem that unreasonable to me.
I think the hard thing, so what I'm gathering is this is short term, essentially. We're going all in to protect in the short term.
Yes.
And then for the long-term discussions, this could be later, but the enforcement of this is so difficult. And so
Yes.
if we have a developer come in, they present their water conservation plan, and then homeowners switch, and I'm cutting out this area of gravel, I'm putting in grass, the city doesn't have the resources to really go enforce that. And I guess, am I hearing you? So even long-term, if we change the tiered rates, that really is the only mechanism to control water inefficiencies across landscaping, right? That's really all we have.
You're 100% correct. So when they started out discussing this, they started out with the square footage of grass. What is reasonable? And we measured countless yards to see what is a reasonable amount. What could they use as xeriscape lawn and water that and water-wise efficient landscaping? How could we do all that? And they went through it, and then it hit the enforcement mechanism. How reasonable or how realistic is it for the city staff or anyone to go out and enforce these standards at that point? And so I think what the intent is that they come in and most owners, or the one or two that may actually occur between now and the next spring, and that's an extreme scenario literally, but let's say that happens, it's to have them come in, have a standard, they build to that. And then obviously the ultimate teeth, though, we had to bring it back in and add later on. That was the last part that the planning commission started discussing, were tiered rates. And they're pretty extreme tiered rates. The lower ones aren't. They give a reasonable expectation. You can water and you won't spend a ton of money on watering if you stay below a certain level. But as soon as you jump, like most cities usually only have 3 tiered rates. We have 8 or 9 because it encourages people to step down in the rates. These ones just basically say stay below the first rate.
And those tiered rates, they're not tied to the size of the lot in any way, right? Like,
No.
we're saying even if you're on an acre lot, you still get the 15 gallons at that base rate, and then it'll jump.
Yeah, and realistically, most of the areas that we're looking at are in the RE1 zone. They're not all, but most of them. And so when we looked at parcels, we looked at existing homes that are on an acre. And so that was one of the caveats for usage and for the square footage of grass. And so yes, Buzzy is correct. And he's correct. These are things that we'll look at. But regardless, this has to come back before the city council, probably about a year and 2 or 3 months from now, to have another discussion. But this is kind of the stopgap. This is what we have to have in place if we want to have any other development for the next year.
Yeah, and I think I was part of that discussion when it was in planning commission. I think the situation that we're looking at is that a moratorium is a really extreme step, and we've got to do something like a little more reasonable, short of saying, hey, just no one gets to build any new lots right now. So I would support this. I think the planning commission's done a lot of work on it.
Yeah, and I would say I support this as well. And I love this a lot better than a moratorium. And I love that we have a plan for water, improvement in the city this year that we've been working on for a long time. So I think the bigger discussion personally is in a year.
Yeah,
A year to 18
absolutely.
months. So
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're probably ready to entertain
Yeah.
a motion on this.
It would be a motion to approve both the ordinance and the associated resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, how am I supposed to say this again? I motion to approve the
Resolution.
resolution and the associated, the water, sorry. I'm making a motion to the North Logan City Code, the development regulation, and the associated proposed resolution for the master fee schedule. Does that sound right?
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And Alan, pass along our thanks to the planning commission for their work on that. All right, we will move on to consideration of a modification to the concept plan for a subdivision of approximately 12 acres located at approximately 18th East, 2800 North, parcels 04-050-331 and 04-5099. The proposed subdivision now includes 10 lots in the RE1 zone and is being proposed to be subdivided using the density determinant method. Alan, you give us background on that, then maybe we'll hear from Nick.
Again, Spencer's so much better at going through these items, but I'll give it a whirl. And each of you are familiar with this subdivision, or at least it's gone through planning commission for several iterations and also the city council. It was actually approved, but then brought back to planning commission again with a modification. So it went back to the beginning and it reduced the number of lots by one lot in this subdivision. And it was in conjunction with the ingress egress code that we were working on. This subdivision, we've been working with the developer to go over the different aspects. We've already discussed several of them. This meets the aspects of the code for the density determinant for ingress egress. And one interesting item related to this subdivision, which hats off to the developer. This subdivision will include secondary water, which is absolutely fantastic looking at this subdivision as part of their water conservation plan. Using it above the Logan Hyde Park Smithfield Canal is absolutely incredible. So if this goes forward, that this will kind of be groundbreaking for the city and for the residents that live above that canal to be able to use secondary water and keep those shares within North Logan City. And so I don't know if there's any other major questions regarding this line. The only other thing is that this road right here is a master plan road and it will go to the extent here on the far south end. Plans to install all the way to the edge of the property. I didn't know if there's any other questions for myself or to the developer.
Yeah, any questions from the council? Nick, anything you want to say? Okay. All right, then I would entertain a motion on this.
Motion to approve the modification of the concept plan.
All right, motion by Emily,
Second.
second by Buzzy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, we will move on to consideration of a request by Walmart Inc. to obtain an additional license to sell alcoholic beverages off premises at a proposed Walmart convenience store to be located in front of the existing Walmart. Alan?
If Scott needs to help you out on this, he can. He's helped me out in preparing this. And Spencer's the one that's been working on this as well. So as you look at this, this is Walmart in North Logan City. This is the area out front. And we've talked with several businesses regarding this. Walmart has a different model right now where they're looking at putting a gas station, a convenience store. It's a Walmart convenience store out in front. And so that's what would be located here, a gas station with a small area where they could have a small convenience store with sale of items there. However, in North Logan City's code is kind of unique. It only allows so many types of alcohol licenses. There's on-premise, there's off-premises, there's formal bars and things like that where they restrict those types of things. And then off-premise sale, so that they take the alcohol from the site and they leave the premise. That's what this is referring to. And we only have so many licenses, or they've been granted so many licenses within our code. So as you go to the application, let's see if I've got this here. This is the ordinance changing that. Right now, we currently have 4 in North Logan off-premise sale of alcohol licenses, and this would increase that to 5. They have to do this because there's actually the addresses. It's kind of unique. You have a suite A and a suite B, and so they have to have 2 different addresses for the alcohol license. And so that would increase it to 5. And that's what the proposal is. If you look in here, there's actually, I think, a very rough conceptual design of what they're looking at doing. This isn't a proposal for what you're seeing. This is a proposal for the actual alcohol license. And if they come back in and they do this, North Logan City is going to encourage them to look at more of a master plan of that area out front. If we're going to provide utilities and the other things throughout that area, we need a more definitive direction as to what we're going to provide throughout that entire area. And so that will be a discussion in the coming weeks. But this first step would be, can they even have an off-premise alcohol license?
So question, not dealing with alcohol.
Yeah.
If that's their stormwater retention right now, what happens to that?
Mhm. Let me go back to that. So in this preliminary design, when they brought it into us, that was our first question to them. And that would be something, that's why I brought up the master plan element, because if they come in and they put something in there, this is kind of odd for them. They're just coming in and putting in one thing. But we have to look at it as a more larger, in the context of a larger area, master plan with other businesses that'll probably come in, or hardscape, different coefficients for the roof and runoff. You know this, the parking lots, roofs, everything else, they're adding more hardscape. And so they'd have to come through and significantly change and alter, and probably would do a lot of drainage system. They may even have to do some underground
And
portion.
they can do a lot of it underground. We see a lot of that now
Yeah.
too, as long as it
And-
gets addressed.
Then the excess, they'd have to follow every ounce of our stormwater system, but then the excess would go across Main Street. There's a pipe that goes under that.
The welcome to
Main
North
Street.
Logan sign is right there too, isn't it? We're losing all our
Yes.
signs.
Well,
The
this
judge's
one
one
would
is gone.
actually leave it there, but we've actually talked to him about that because, well, I'll just be blunt. There's nothing worse than a sandstone sign with
Yeah.
12-point font.
I
coming
wasn't
in
gonna say
North Logan.
anything. I didn't say anything about the
So-
design.
You can go right ahead.
You want it on a blue background
mean-
with yellow letters?
Sponsored by Wall.
So we've worked with Walmart before. They were good to work with on the original easement for that sign. This was all before I was, right when I was starting. The sign had just been put in. So I think we'll look at, Spencer actually put together a very nice looking design for a sign, a potential sign at the entrance where Judge's Car Wash is, where there used to be a sign there.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
got a very nice design for that he's put together, Spencer, with his design skills. We'd look at probably something similar to this, but you need to remind me about that as we go into the early discussions, that sign's going to be a major discussion point and saying, and so people can actually read it and know that they're in North Logan.
And we have one on 16th East that we need to replace, and
Yeah.
then 8th
That one's
East.
awesome. though.
Fourth.
It's knocked
Vintage.
over.
I thought it was on
Is
Fourth
it not
East.
done over? Yeah.
The
No,
16th
don't we have
East
one on
one
Fourth
got
East?
hit
Somebody hit
It's like a
knocked it
wooden
over.
sign.
So is
It's
it-
on 8th,
Fourth. I thought there was one on Fourth. Am I crazy?
We've lost
right by North Park,
3
right?
in the past 3 years. We lost one on 16. There was one by the Space Dynamics
Yeah.
lab we lost that got hit, then one on 4th.
The one on the
So we
north,
Okay.
probably
I was
need
like-
to replace
one
all
on the
of them.
north end of 16th used to be up high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's really low.
Now
We
it's
brought
just the
road
top
up.
of the sign. You can see like welcome.
Yeah, you can only see the top of it.
Something to add to the
Can you go
budget
back
this
to
year.
that chart?
Yes. And as a side note about welcome signs, before we go down that, Spencer has been looking at that as well, along with the Parks Committee. And we appreciate feedback from the city council. If you've seen really nice entrance signs, we've tried to balance in the past between, well, North Logan is a very educated, very
Modern.
modern area, but with a rural character that they wanted to preserve. So how do you combine both of those?
The one by
into a sign?
Walmart looks good.
Which
Just
one
a
did you
grave.
want to see,
And a
Greg?
plug.
Sorry.
I
It's a
don't agree.
tombstone.
Chart.
Facetious.
That
Being
has
ridiculous.
5.
Get us in trouble. I don't agree. There's a lot of art students. Someone's got to have a better idea.
Yeah, these are the
Oh, okay.
different.
I wouldn't have a
licenses.
Yeah,
great
I'm with you
opinion.
now. Okay.
So do we have to do that every time? Like,
Yeah.
if there were another business that came in, do we have to
Right.
modify this?
Is
every
there
single time?
potential we could
Do want
modify
land
it
on 5 or do
higher?
We want to go higher.
That's what I'm wondering.
You
too,
Yeah,
so
that's
we
what I'm
use it every
wondering.
time.
Keep in mind though, this,
You don't want
I would
to-
agree with you and say this is gonna happen all the time. But in reality, I've been with the city for 15 years. I've only seen it once. And it was only when we swapped boundaries with Logan and we inherited the Tesoro,
Oh.
which now is the Maverick on
Oh,
the
yeah,
corner of
Get a couple more
25th.
Mavericks out there.
And
Oh.
they had to approve that off-premise license when they
All
came
right.
in.
Is it
Well-
better for the city for us to approve every time it goes up? Because I'm okay making it higher.
If it's once in 15 years, let's just do it ad hoc, I think.
Okay.
I mean,
I was going to discuss removing. I'm totally kidding. I'll actually just make a motion then that we approve the request by Walmart to obtain an additional license to sell alcohol.
Second.
Off-premise license to sell.
motion by
alcohol.
Buzzy, second by Emily. All in favor?
I
Any,
Yes,
Emily,
Include it.
yes?
what? Sorry.
mine includes the ordinance and the resolution.
What's the difference?
Wait, what resolution?
What resolution? I'm now.
So we're authorizing it specifically for
Oh, it's just
Walmart
not-
and
okay,
we're,
sorry. Yes,
And
we're
update
yes,
adding an
yeah,
additional
then-
one in the city.
Okay.
All right, so you're
I got
fine to
all
do that
confused.
retroactively,
Yes,
Emily?
yes, I
Okay,
just got confused.
all right, that motion carries then. I called for a vote, right?
Mm,
That was very confusing.
Did we?
All right, I did.
Okay,
Okay, we're good. All right, we will move on to consider approving a recommendation from the Civic Center Committee granting authorization to sign a contract for construction services for the new city offices along with other potential municipal buildings on the Civic Center site. I can probably speak to this just because I've been sitting in these meetings for many hours. We have narrowed it down to two firms that we interviewed yesterday, Hogan and Spindler. They both are really impressive companies. We're just at the point where we're making some calls to their references to kind of make that ultimate decision. We're trying to keep this process moving quickly and not lose any time. And we'd hope to have a name for you tonight, but we just aren't quite at that point where we have enough feedback from those references to make a decision. We will probably do that tomorrow, but I just wanted to get some input from the council and potentially an approval of either or one of those two options. Alan, am I leaving out anything?
No, and the good news is as we've been talking with references and everyone involved in this process, is the two firms that we're looking at are very highly recommended. Each person we've called,
Yeah.
even not their references they've given us, just buildings that they've built. They're coming back at very high recommendation, which is good in such a very difficult time to construct. Every time we talk about resources, everything else, they're very far out. So for people to come back with a positive recommendation right now is very good.
Yeah. So I guess, should we vote on that then?
So you want us to approve whatever
either-
recommendation that they give?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I was understanding.
Yeah.
And these fees are basically just their admin fees to do business with us. I'm trying to figure out.
They're their admin fees to take care of the pre-construction and design process, and then the construction process
Okay.
of their oversight. That's correct, Fuzzy. Sorry, that's just as a point of clarification.
Yeah,
makes
so
sense.
it would be a motion approving the
Recommendation
selection.
that they give?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. I motion to approve the recommendation from the Civic Center Committee.
Okay, on the
On-
CMGC.
Yes.
Okay. A second
Second.
by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, that motion carries. We're ahead of schedule, guys.
Right.
Woo, look at us go.
The Jazz play at 8.
We'll move on
That
to,
ain't happening.
we will move on to the work session items. The first one is updates regarding the North Logan City Active Transportation Plan. I believe Lloyd's here if you want to speak to that.
And Lloyd, do not let Buzzy scare you
It
about
was a
that,
joke,
Jazzy.
Lloyd, I
He'll-
promise.
He can start
promise.
watching it on his phone. But the
Yeah, take all the time you need.
I do need to applaud Lloyd for this process. This has been his master's thesis.
Yep.
He's been working on this for the past few years. The quality of what he has done is literally off the charts. As we've gone through this and looked at everything that he's done, this usually takes a firm another year, and they work with a number of large groups to put these things together. He's done everything from data collection, data analysis, working with several different entities to put these together. And the output is absolutely fantastic. So with that, Lloyd, I'll turn the time over to you.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so I just really wanted to give an update on the draft of the plan. I know I've met with you several times throughout the last couple of years. You just scroll down. Just want to state what Alan was saying. We've worked with a lot of people to develop this plan, including USU, Cache County, UDOT, Bike Utah, the Canal Company, and the Cache MPO to develop this. So, and you scroll down another page, there are several different sections in the plan, just an intro to what it is, setting the vision. We were able to get a good amount of public involvement for this, despite the COVID restrictions that we had during that period of time developing the plan. Then we go through evaluating the existing conditions and then recommendations. So pretty much the entire plan is drafted, other than I've met with Spencer and Alan to go through the recommendations section, and that's still being added to the end before it gets submitted to you guys for final adoption. And then you could scroll down to page 11.
We'll skip this one with the sign.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring it there. It came up in the conversation. It's in there. Beautiful.
You could add
signs
that
on
to the
sign.
recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just wanted to note the public involvement that we've had. We've had over 35 stakeholder meetings, 6 public presentations. We had a handful of volunteer hours doing the walk bike counting intersections. And we had a public survey that had really good response with 245 responses and 181 different comments on a wide variety of different topics. And then if you scroll down to page 31, I just had some time to go out and collect information on the existing conditions to know where different gaps were in like for things such as on-street bicycling infrastructure, where there's photo documented the existing condition of the roadways that helps inform the recommendation section. And then if you scroll down to page 43, we were able to do some more in-depth observation on the multi-use trail, specifically with the ones on Wolfpack Way, 3100 North, and a couple of the other ones throughout the city, setting up counters and time-lapse cameras to evaluate whether people were using those and how often they were using them. You can scroll down a page or two, I think, and it shows some of the data from that. So we have like time intervals of seeing when people are actually using the trails, whether they're using them as intended or they're using the roadway instead. So we're able to get a lot of good observations for recommending future trails throughout the city later. And then if you scroll down to page 63, this is the last thing I wanted to show. I'm working on creating the recommendations and putting it to the statewide data standards so it can be carried up into like UDOT planning and brought into some of their funding opportunities as well. So it just shows an overview of, like I said, this isn't complete yet, but just showing where different proposed projects would be. And you can scroll down to, and I'll have them rated in like a different table, showing like the distance and the estimated planning costs for those. So if there's
So
any-
those are prioritized. Oh,
they-
and 16th East is at the top.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
they've been prioritized based on what I've discussed with Spencer and Alan in several of the meetings that we've had with the council and the planning commission. They haven't been prioritized completely yet, but that will be done prior to the end. And then in addition to that, I'll have design guidelines and then a few conceptual designs for the big items like the 1600 East multi-use trail and canal paths and such, those things. So are there any questions?
Wonderful.
That looks good.
I don't see 2300 North on there.
Well, it doesn't
What-
exist, so it's really hard to have a sidewalk on a road that doesn't exist.
South of 16 or
I
west
guess
of
it's true,
1600.
but
The 2300 North, if you
Yeah.
scroll up a little bit. Like I said, I have met with Alan and Spencer, and there are a few things that are going in here that aren't on there yet. A few of them were 12th East, continuing all the way through past Elk Ridge, and then 2500 North, continuing through. I wasn't aware of 2300 North.
It's only because I live on that street.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're like, this map is not complete yet. There's a few things that will be added there. 2300 North, I believe, has some signage there already, but no like lane markings or no trails.
One
as
of the-
yet.
One of the key aspects that Lloyd and Spencer and their discussions that they've come up with and looking at this and it's really data driven. And looking at a lot of the Strava data and the counters that Lloyd has put out. As you look at this area, we've talked extensively with Utah State about 19th North. And the key aspect, one, from a recreational standpoint, it goes all the way from Green Canyon down to our city center area. but it also is a key access for things like the SDL. They employ 1,100 people, and there's a lot of people that bike and walk to work through that area. And so as we've looked at that, and then you have Strava data off the charts on 16th for usage. And so if you've got 19th north, 16th east, and 3100 north, and then Wolfpack Way, you create essentially a box around the city, and then you dissect it with 25th eventually that goes down the middle. And then you have north-south corridors or connectors as well. You have the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, you have the 3 canal trails. There is an extensive amount of opportunity within the city to create multiple loops, access points, both for active transportation and for people actively getting to work or to a destination.
Yeah, and we kind of just clued you in on the new city office location?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Pretty much right on the same.
By
the
the
same
library.
parcel.
Well, yeah, right by
there.
where we are.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
When you
That's what
talk
included in our
canals,
discussions.
Lloyd, does it take into consideration the canals that are privately owned currently, where there's the discussion around access to those trails that has now been locked off in most cases?
So we have discussed some of those issues like with land ownership. There are some existing easements for canal maintenance. And then there's some discrepancy on, there's a quick claim through the county to take the 25 feet on either side of the canal. And that shows up in the county parcel data that they're owning that, but there's a few different things going on there. The main ones we've been looking at are the upper, middle, and then the lower, with the middle and the upper being, I guess, more ideal for putting a trail because there's already a maintenance path, but it requires agreement from adjacent landowners and clearing up some of the discrepancies over the ownership of the actual maintenance path, because some parcels include it in the description and some don't.
And that may be something we have to kickstart again through our canal trails committee. That kind of fizzled a little bit when, what's his name, became the county attorney. He was on
Luce.
the, yeah, Luthi was helping us with doing that, but
And I know there is interest at the county level for that as well,
Yeah.
not just at the North Logan City scale. So that could be something you coordinate with the county on as well.
definitely, we've worked with Carly in the past, so that'd be a good thing to kickstart again.
Mhm.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Lloyd. We
Yeah, no problem.
really
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
Yep, thank you.
One thing with Lloyd's his presentation tonight is an update, a key update, and to get feedback from the council as to his progress. But he'll probably go before a defense here soon, and then after that, after he's done and with the recommendations, probably come back before the city council for adoption
Oh, great.
of the active transportation plan. So
Yes. So
Do you
the
have your
tentative-
defense scheduled?
Yeah, the defense is scheduled for March 15th.
Good
So
luck.
the final draft will be done in the next month. And then there will be some edits and stuff that will take place. And then we'll bring it back here for adoption.
Awesome.
Great. Good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck. You've done a great job.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to fiscal year 2023 budget proposal from the Community Development Department.
Woo. I'm excited for this.
So just going over this, these budget presentations are kind of more of a quick overview. A lot more discussion takes place, and if you have questions outside of this meeting, just please get with me, go over everything in this budget if you have. Not that you can't ask questions tonight. This is Spencer's budget, and he'd normally be here to present this. Again, we miss his presence at this meeting. But going through this, as you look at the layouts of each of these different departments, just in general, as you look at the bottom of this, of the budget, of the master budget, and you go over all the way to the right, everything in general to the left of the general revenue and general expense are all items that come out of the general fund, including the general revenue and general expense. So everything out of that is general fund primarily based. And everything to the right of that is really like an enterprise account. Sewer, water, stormwater, capital's a little bit different, library. And so just looking to the left of that, you see all of these different departments. We started treating each of these departments, not formally, but for operationally, like an enterprise account, we show revenue and expense. We didn't used to do that within the budget. You couldn't see the revenue line. And so as you look at several different departments, some have very minimal revenue. It's very difficult to guesstimate what that is, and it's very small. But we still wanted to emphasize that there is a revenue item, there is an expense, and then basically what their demand on the general fund is. And that's what you see down in these departments. Spencer's department, though, as you look through this, they do get some zoning and subdivision fees that come directly to the community development department when you're looking at revenue. And those are really hard to guesstimate. That's basically just looking at what developments do we anticipate coming in the next year? And that's really hard to go over. And really the sale map publications, that was an old one that where we used to sell, and there's really not much there at this point. As you go down though in the expense, it's wages, benefits, basically some travel and training, and then you get to the bulk of it down here at the bottom. And that is really professional and technical consulting. The bulk of that goes to pay for our county contracts, which are for planning. They provide some planning services to us, GIS services and cemetery services. It's actually very affordable what they provide for what we pay to them. Keep in mind the GIS software that we had 8 years ago that we just used in-house was about $8,000 to $10,000 per year. We don't even pay that to the county for what they provide. And so it's a very affordable item that they provide, and very up to date, very robust what they can do for us. And so it works out very well. The other portion of this dollar amount right here that you're seeing though is intended, and Spencer's been in discussions now, is to start some of the master plan that we've talked about with our general plan. Going through elements of the general plan, updating certain elements within that, city center, land use, transportation, going through those different categories with the planning commission and updating those different areas, which would all also come before the city council. And so that's the gist of the community development department. And what you're looking at is this is the column. Sorry, I should have explained this before anything. FY23, and this should be FY23 proposed as well. And so you're looking at 142,000 to 146,000. So $4,000 increase is what he's asking for.
He wrote in his own raise. Or is that
That's
you?
the
Is
thing
that
that's
you doing that?
Very awkward for Spencer, and I'm glad
I
he's
know,
not
he's
here
not
because
here.
this is an awkward budget to propose. It's just him.
What's the first, is that 3%?
He
3% increase.
is
Yeah.
he
Doing
is
a
such
fantastic job. So
fantastic planner that I have no qualms.
I kind of wish he was here. Tell him that.
You can almost justify his wages and benefits coming out of every other department in the city because he helps out every other department significantly. Yeah,
So I'm
that's
just trying to think on this because we're going to have the compensation committee work too, that we're going to have to tie in here, obviously. So most of these we're probably going to see just a 3%, I presume, for
yeah.
current
What they're
staff.
encouraged to do is to give a 3% recommended increase. Keep in mind between the years of 2008 and 2018, 2008 to 2017, there were 2 raises during that time.
Yeah.
And they were about a 1% to 2% raise during
It's
those
not even in
years.
keeping with
Since
inflation.
2017, we've done a 3% raise every year on average. Sorry, it goes across all the different departments. So on average, a 3% raise. And then a lot of that's dependent upon merit.
Are we looking at part-time too on that same
Yes.
increase? Okay. All right. Thanks.
And the major bulk increase for part-timer was really 3 or 4 months ago when we had this major discussion. So theirs went up significantly to match the industry right now that's really going crazy. Good questions.
Okay, are we taking any actions on these, or are these just kind of presentations so
Just
that we have a heads up?
presentations and feedback. And then after the meeting or during the meeting, if you have questions, concerns, just get with me
Okay,
because it's going to be a lengthy process between now and May.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Then we can probably move on to the building inspection item. You're burning time right now, Jordan.
This is faster than Spencer's though. So the building department, we actually are under contract with High Park City. This has been ongoing. This is the start of the 3rd year. Oh, he's getting ready.
Thank you.
And
It'll be reflected in your budget.
maybe I'll take longer. So how it works is we have 80-20 split based upon the building fees. When somebody comes in to build a home, there's a building permit fee. We split that 80-20. So if you look at our 2021 budget, it'll just show the 2021 actuals, what we brought in versus what we expended out, and what we what we net incomed. So we made 86,000 off of that budget last year. So in anticipation of this current year, what we have development wise and what is left to build out in North Logan City currently, like what we have permits for, or what we have developed and we have developable lots. That's what we're forecasting, is that we will be right around a little bigger than last year. So any questions? It's pretty quick and easy on that one.
Yeah,
Positive.
it's a good one to present.
Okay.
Hey, I think that's great. Okay.
Is
Then
it
move
Jordan's
on
easiest one to
to
present?
Fire.
Yeah, I think it's harder for him.
Show off.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So my budget's pretty simple. It's based on a contract. So we signed a contract with North Logan to provide services for you for about I think it was a 5 or 6 year contract. And we had a steady increase in that contract over the past, couple of years. This has been, I think we started in July. So it's been a year, a little over a year and a half. We're approaching 2 years together. So there's really not, as far as that, about roughly 80% go to wages and benefits, just so you're aware of that. There's very limited that goes to capital. You make up about 11% of our overall budget. About 35% of our budget comes from EMS revenue, which is obviously that kind of lowers everybody's contribution, including Logan. We provide services for Logan, North Logan, Providence, River Heights, and portions of unincorporated county, including Logan Canyon. So there are some of those, contributions that obviously keep that price down as well. This year, we are proposing to the city of Logan to add another position. So we're hopeful that maybe that can happen. I was explaining to Joni, sorry, that our requirement for training is roughly around 350 hours per person, just to cover our baseline training for fire, EMS. We are also hazmat. We are the airport rescue. We're wildland trained, tech rescue. What am I forgetting? Bomb. We have bomb techs. So we have a wide variety of services that we provide the community. And so all of those have their baseline certification training that we have to keep up with. So we're looking for somebody to be able to help manage that. Obviously, that gets out of control over time. So to help keep our ISO rating where it is, we're a class 2, which obviously decreases insurance rates for commercial and residential properties. It's interesting how ISO moved away from being a criteria for residential, but it's starting to move back in. You see a lot of insurance companies asking questions about, do you have a full-time fire department covering your city, hydrant locations, distance from the fire station? All those are critical components to your rates. And they're starting to come back even more and more, even for residential. So that's pretty much all I have, unless you have questions.
Alan, what year are we in with our contract with Logan?
It's in year 2. If you go down here below,
Oh, thank
that's a
you.
very
Sorry.
good question. No,
I just wanted
this
to-
is very unique to this budget.
Okay.
We just put this in here because it's kind of built in. This is very unique. The year 1 was 895. This year that we're currently in is 939. And then the proposed year, which would be next year, starting July 1, would be 977. I think it only goes 3 more years beyond that, and then it hits that year 7. Is my understanding, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the original kind of contract.
Yeah, the year 7 was the bump for the 5th person.
We had to add another person within
mhm.
that station 120.
Right.
Let's buy 6 years, get one free. So year 7.
Yeah, that's what it should have been.
Yeah.
Buy one, get one free this
Quite
year.
work like that.
One other key aspect, the only reason you see other items and these items up above is North Logan still owns the apparatus within, well, most of it. I think 95%. I'm trying to think, Chief, if Logan owns some of the apparatus within the station. And then the
Yeah.
North Logan City still owns the station itself. So that's ours. And then the chief provides the personnel
personnel.
and operates the actual station.
So we maintain the vehicles, we fuel them. But any major repairs, you know, we haven't had anything that we've had to come to you to ask for that. So we cover pretty much all the operation, small equipment, all that stuff is part of the contract. But the actual apparatus you own, I think a handful of them, and the station.
Are they still setting aside for additional equipment? You know how we used to set aside like two, so that's stop.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I think that's all. We will move on to the Economic Development Department. Alan, is that you?
Yeah, I can go through this pretty quickly. Economic development, I mean, we have a few lines in here when we have major events that bring in significant amount of revenue. Or if we do like, we can always modify this. If we did the Hungry Games again, that brings in actually a little bit of revenue when we do those types of things. But looking down below the economic development, the one thing that we talked about is adding the full-time person. And that's something that we need to go out on and discuss in the next couple of months to modify. Again, if a full-time person brings in 1 to 2 or 3 businesses, they basically paid for themselves indefinitely. And so that's one thing that we're looking into right now is investing in that, and it should have a large return on the investment. But then as you go down through all these other items, they're all very minimal. The cost, we do like a business alliance meeting where every quarter we'll have all of the businesses throughout North Logan City. We invite them to come to a meeting here. We serve them lunch. And we go over some informational things regarding the city, growth, transportation, other things that they like to hear about. And then we provide them maybe a keynote speaker that provides business aid or developmental options. And so that's what you're seeing there. And then as you go down to the ice arena sales tax, we've gone over this, but this is on that agreement with the ice arena. They keep a portion of the sales tax, or we take a portion of our sales tax based off the agreement, based off a percentage, and it's allocated to the ice arena. And we redid this last year. And I'm trying to think, Scott, when we upped it for another 5 years. Yes, it ends in 2025. And so that'll go for another 20 or 5 years. And then at that point, they've indicated that their endowment will be large enough to where it generates enough interest where they'll be self-sustaining at that point. North Logan and just a couple other communities are part of that. Logan is not part of that, but North Logan, obviously Cache County, I believe Hyde Park is part of that. And so that was originally set up for when it was established right before the Olympics in 2002, and to help it become self-sustaining over time.
And just to speak to the economic development position, I would love to get the council's input on that. As we've been discussing that issue, we've been aced out several times by other municipalities, and but it is a big item. So I'm just wondering, I just want to get your thoughts on whether you feel like that would be a worthwhile investment, if this is the year to do it. Yeah.
We should have done it 3 years ago. I mean, the growth, I think we've lost out by not, I realized we never have the funding for it, but I think that would have paid dividends, especially the last 2 years, which is kind of surprising with COVID and everything, but I am firmly supportive of trying to get this in this year.
Great.
So,
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
I mean, I don't know where the money comes from.
I know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a key question.
I'm
But
somewhat questioning the salary too with what's happened there, and if that's really aggressive enough to bring in a good economic developer. So, but that's something we can look at later.
I think the other thing, yeah, and we can talk about that in terms, I mean, it's just going to be about looking at what the market is, but another just kind of side benefit to this is that I know Alan's trying to carry this along with everything else. And so it would free up Alan's time to do some other things that we really kind of need him to focus on. But that continuity is so important with an economic developer, and it's hard to do when you're juggling another job. So, okay. Thank you for that input. Roger, anything you want to say on that? No, just here for the fun. Okay. All right, then we'll just move on to reports from city officers, boards, and committees. Oh, chief.
I should have taken the fire chief. Walk up here sooner. I don't want to rush you, Mayor. Real quick, Wednesday of next week, I've asked the commission to provide me one more person. I have one commission member that can help us with interviews. I did send an email today. We have a couple officer positions we're trying to fill that are open right now. So if somebody on the commission that's part of the council is available at 10 o'clock next Wednesday, I'd appreciate the help. Since January 30th to February 12th, we took 228 calls of service and 138 traffic contacts. I want to thank, there was a couple of the different departments in the city that helped us get some signs up this last week at the police department. And so we really appreciate it. It was kind of a rushed deal and they stepped up and got us taken care of. So we do appreciate that assistance. Any questions for the police department?
I'm out of town Wednesday, sorry.
No, I
Through
just
the
thought I'd throw it
following
out.
week, but yeah.
I sent an email. Not everybody always gets their email. So
I got the email.
Okay.
I have meetings scattered, but I could maybe,
it should take us about an hour tops-ish, I would imagine. So we've got a couple applications, sounds like, so it'll be good.
keep bugging us.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, who's next in terms of reports? Brad, you've kind of given us your spill. You're really racking up the extra credit tonight. I don't know, Jordan or Scott, who's up? Nothing? You guys should feel free to say something. I don't want to put too much pressure.
I can see Roger staring at me. I can't say anything. No, just Utah League of Seasoned Towns. We've already gone over that. If you are going to that, make sure you're in touch with Scott. Scott usually sets up 80% of that and gets you straight away on that.
We doing
Okay.
dinner?
That's the only
Dinner reservation for that?
dinner.
Yeah,
reservation.
like we did, we went to dinner this year.
Oh, we can do that.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was standard.
that
Just
not
asking if it was-
And just a
In the
reminder,
past, There's always been like maybe one that's attended the St. George conference at most.
oh, really?
So it'd
Big
just
group.
be me and you. The so
That's fine.
Is that a
No
bad
number?
thing?
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
Gee, thanks, Al.
It's easiest if you register yourself, choose the check option.
Oh,
And then you get,
Oh, so we need to be registering ourselves.
because there's options to choose from.
Okay.
It's easier.
I'm sorry, guys. I won't be attending that. You will have to fill me in.
Okay.
We could do a dinner afterwards. You guys can fill me in on
you
everything.
have
I'm
to,
just kidding.
can't do dinner.
Okay.
with Logan, you have to be out of town.
Oh, sorry.
I'll
Yikes.
help you out, Jake, so-
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Sorry, what did I say?
Okay. Alan, no? Okay. And just a reminder that city council's on the 9th in March. We're a little bit different for March. So, all right. Anything from the council? Anything like a motion?
I've sent a reminder. I'm out on the 9th. So
Okay.
just to make sure that that's clear. Yep.
We switched it to the second and fourth week for
Right.
March, correct?
9th and the 23rd.
Okay.
And we
So-
only have one in April, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
The first one, I believe.
yes.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
We have executive, it looked like.
Oh, yeah, but we have to adjourn, right?
Yeah.
I'll make
Okay.
the motion. We move out of our normal city council into executive session.
All right.
Second.
Second by Buzzy, all in favor?
I.
All right, that carries. You grab that door, chief. Thanks.
You got the Zoom, Alan. You told me to remind you. Yeah. So it's getting moved to the 9th.